So the first game they talked about was Avowed. I'm just going to go through what they talked about through the whole thing. Then they talked about, oh god, it's called like Hellblade 2. Yeah.
Senua, yeah.
Senua Saga, Hellblade 2. And then they talked about Visions of Mana.
Yep.
And that was really interesting. That they what did we say? What did I say last week? There's going to be a secret game, right? There's going to be a little surprise, right?
I figured there would be a surprise game. Last year it was it was Hi-Fi Rush, which was just Shadow Drop at the same time, but last year it was Hi-Fi Rush.
Right. So they do a little surprise and they picked a JRPG to be the surprise nugget. I think that's a big deal.
Which had been announced already, by the way. I think it was announced at the Game Awards, actually.
I do think it's a big deal that they chose, whether it was previously announced or not, to be like, hey, look, we're going to spend, 10 minutes?
Maybe not quite 10 minutes, but something like that.
We're going to spend 10 minutes on this game. I think that's a big deal. You spent 10 minutes on a JRPG. We both know it. Microsoft and JRPGs have not been a good mixture before.
I mean, they've tried. They've tried in the past to hit the Japanese market, go after JRPGs, but they're just not popular with the Xbox crowd. Like, they're really not.
Yeah, it just isn't, and that's just how it is. But it's very interesting to me that they chose to have a JRPG be the surprise game come in here as a part of their developer direct, this is a big Microsoft showcase for upcoming games for the year. They chose this one. So I was super shocked. Normally I would not have expected the surprise to be like, oh look, it's JRPG. So I think it's a big deal. I'm not saying it's an indicator of anything, but they spent 10 minutes talking about a JRPG. That is like, that says something. It says something. Phil's cooking some JRPGs in a pot somewhere.
Yeah, maybe. And they not only did they spend time, obviously they had to make this thing, and they obviously they sent some of their crew to Japan to Square Enix's studio to film this.
Right.
And stuff like that. So not yeah.
Wasn't just a small mission. No. They set all this up. So I was surprised. It's a big deal. They then talked about Aura History Untold, and then they finished it off with Indiana Jones. Yep. And the Indiana Jones was this is the first view of Indiana Jones in the gameplay. So I'm going to focus on Avowed for a minute. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, I promise.
Sure.
Because for this one, I just want to say, it's pretty much what I expected. It's like, okay, here's another kind of Skyrim game.
Yeah.
It did look pretty clean to me when I was watching the combat. I like the enemies. It looks like, I don't know if we're actually seeing the in-engine footage or not. I didn't see anything there, but it looks like it.
One thing I'll appreciate about this game, by the way, in terms of I guess the art, I'll just say the graphics and the art style. This game is so much more colorful than any other standard Western RPG.
Yes.
It's obviously not JRPG colorful, and that's fine. But most Western RPGs, man, they love their grays and their browns and their blacks, and there's a lot more color in this game.
This was very colorful.
And I appreciate that.
There was a ton of color, especially with spells. I appreciated their description of, okay, you're in this area. It's like a wasteland desert. First thing I thought of, Dragon Age Inquisition. The boring ass desert map. But what they did was
there's two desert regions in that game, by the way.
Yeah, so what they did was they showed some of these regions, and they're really okay, it looks like a desert kind of thing, but you can see there's a pocket of something in there. You're like, okay, what's that? There's an oasis. So normally, yeah, it's gonna look like this. It's a desert. It's got rock faces. Rock faces look great, by the way. Love that. Love those structures. And then it's got little camps and an oasis. And the oasis looks so nice. And I'm like, hold on, this is nice. I really appreciated taking the time to be like, look. Yes, it's kind of a desert, dry environment, but check this oasis out. Here's a little oasis. You could find some enemies. It's like a different look at the colors. It's colorful. It looks really nice. I liked what I saw from the combat. It wasn't just like, there was a little bit more to it. I appreciated some of the things I saw.
There was a little of but
when you have a sword, what do you expect?
no, I mean, you're right.
But at the same time, there was a little bit more of like, okay, I can dual wield guns. I can have a sword and wand in one hand. There was more to it, to me, and there was a little bit. I enjoyed seeing the combat be just a little bit more interesting than just like,
yeah. That's the thing that I'm most worried about with like this type of game, basically a more modern Skyrim. Is the combat in Skyrim? It's so bad. It's just so shallow. Like,
it's really shallow.
Nothing to it, and I hope that in this game, obviously, the base of it is like, yeah, I have a sword and I smack things, and I have a shield and I block things. But I'm hoping that in whatever the RPG systems in this game, that there's like some cool upgrades and like actual things that you can do other than just like smack them with your sword or shoot spells, or there's like a good variety of like spells to choose from that like do different things. They showed a spell, like a crowd control spell, where they like put an enemy in a cage or something like that at one point. I was like, okay, so we got some different spells that maybe do some different things. I like that, you know.
Yeah.
And I like the idea maybe you could do like a battle mage with like, you know, wand in one hand, sword in the other hand type thing.
I like some of the flexibility they showed. I said, okay, I can work with this. This is a little bit more. It's like a modern Skyrim, as you said. It's colorful. Environments look great. I do like the enemy design. They looked interesting.
This key art on is like pretty.
This is really good key art. Like, this is really good. I'm like kind of looking back and forth and like, man, it's really good. What is this? This is really nice. I'm excited. I'm super excited for Avowed. That was kind of my final thought on one. I don't have anything to say about Hellblade. Visions of Mana, I already said what I wanted to say. I think it's really cool they took the time to talk about it. For Aura History Untold, I didn't have as much to say, I'm sure, as you did. And then we can say I'll just say my thoughts on Indiana Jones for after. But anything I talked about Avowed, what stood out to you here?
Whatever. I liked what, as we talked about, I liked what I saw from Avowed. I liked that it's more colorful than your standard Western RPG. I appreciate that. And, you know, people like Obsidian, people like their games. I haven't played much of them personally. And we haven't had, you know, there hasn't been an Elder Scrolls game since Skyrim, so there hasn't been a game like this in like 12 years, or when did Skyrim go? 2011 or something?
2011, 13 years. Okay. Almost 13 years, yeah.
And I'm sure Elder Scrolls 6 is still years off at this point, so
it's not close. It's not.
The thing I'm worried about is the depth of the combat. I want there to be more depth to the combat, and you know, they showed a little bit. There might be, but you know, I'm a little wary on that, but I hope they pull it off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm interested in this. I will. You know, it depends what else is coming out around the time. They said this is gonna come out in the fall of this year, so still a ways off. You know, 9-10 months, something like that.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm interested. I will, if there's nothing else that I'm more interested in around the time, I'll probably try it. I'll probably try it at least. I'm sure it'll be day one Game Pass because you know it's a Microsoft like first party thing.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't have much to say about Hellblade. I haven't played that series. I'm not interested in that series. The dev team seems very passionate. You know, the work that they're putting into it. The game looks amazing. It sounds amazing. It looks like a very interesting and like visceral and real game. You know, we have a person in the game. You know, the main character has like psychosis. They have like visual and auditory hallucinations and stuff like that. So very interesting topics that they're diving into in that game, but you know, I'm not particularly interested in it.
Yep.
There
you go.
Spectrum.
You got a little like a rose a second.
I think I'm getting a little Spectrum right now, but Visions of Mana. I mean, it's a long running series though. This is the first like new game in the series for in quite a long time.
Yep.
Um, Game looks pretty, combat looks cool. I'm sure the story's gonna be a little bit generic because the story in those games are like most of the time. I mean, hopefully they'll do more with it, but it's usually like,
Yep.
collect the elemental MacGuffins and release the Sword of Mana and
Hey,
defeat the big bad. So,
you know what?
um,
It's simple.
but yeah, the art style's nice. The combat looks fun. It's
Yep.
coming out in the summer. I doubt it'll be I doubt that game will be a Game Pass game, but we'll
Yeah.
see. Um,
I don't think so. I'm gonna say
yeah,
no on that.
I don't think so either, and it's definitely not going to be exclusive to Xbox because that would be suicide by Square for that. Unfortunately, like I like that Xbox is advertising it and pushing it, but again, Xbox people are not JRPG people,
No.
so if they've tried exclusives on Xbox before with JRPGs and it did not work out.
No.
So,
It didn't.
um, yeah, I'm sure it'll be on Xbox and PlayStation and probably PC as well, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then Ara, yeah, I mean, I feel like if you've been following Ara, we didn't really learn anything new from this presentation on it. They have their living world, they have this like crafting system, simultaneous turns. Um, they have the acts. There's like the game is divided into 3 acts. At the end of each act, a certain percentage, like a few of the players, basically the players that are furthest behind, just lose.
Oh wow.
Um, you're just like
Game's
because
over.
the game is built on like similar to humankind. They call it not fame. They call it a prestige in this game, but it's like a score based system where like you
Yep.
win by having the most prestige. And they showed one there's a screenshot. I don't think it was in the presentation, but there's a screenshot you can see where um no, it wasn't the presentation, but you have to pause obviously. But I think it was like a 12 player game or something like that at the end of Act 1 and the bottom 2 players are eliminated.
Okay.
Um
Okay.
and they had a interview with one of the developers after it was a text thing. Um that they showed, and they said the reason they did that with the axe and the elimination is they like if you're gonna lose the game, they don't want you to have to play like 10 hours and lose at the end. Like if you're that far behind at the beginning, you're gonna lose, and they're just gonna rip the band-aid off and say like, hey, you lost, try again. Like,
I mean, they probably didn't initially have that system, but they might have determined after doing playtesting out themselves, like, man, if you're behind this much, I don't think we've seen any
yeah,
cases of someone
you
coming
can't
back.
catch up. You just
So
lose.
just get them
Like,
out. Like, just,
yeah.
yeah. I like that. I do like that. You're just like out of the game because they don't want you to just sit there for a long time and be
In those
just
games, I
behind.
mean, 4X / grand strategy games tend to be very snowbally.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
when you get ahead, you just get more and more ahead. So
Agreed.
yeah, I think that system is fine. You know, and they said, we'll see if they accomplish this, but they said they're trying to challenge some of the genre conventions. Trying to make the games like more varied in that like you can't just use the same strategy every game. Um, like they're I think again,
Mm-hmm.
they haven't gone into details on how this works, but with science in the game,
Yep.
it's basically like it's not a tech tree. It's like it's a deck of cards and you like draw techs and you have to like pick
Oh.
which ones you want, and if some ones you don't pick, you discard them basically.
Oh,
So you
interesting.
won't be able to get those techs. And when you advance to the next era, any techs that you didn't research from the previous era, you can't research anymore. They're just gone. You left them behind.
Oh, okay.
Um
I get that's good. It's good. It's good. There's some like I don't know. It's good. Like that's interesting. I'm not gonna criticize it yet, but that's interesting.
yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting system. Um, I think there's another game called Old World that came, I think it came out a few years ago at this point, that does technology similarly.
Mhm.
Um, but anyways, and yeah, they have this really, in-depth crafting system apparently, that it's going to require a lot of like foresight, where like you're going to, use certain workers or buildings and stuff to gather, whatever materials or resources the map has, but then you have to use those resources and like craft them into goods. Like
Yep.
if you want to build soldiers, you have to take whatever the iron or steel that you harvest and then craft swords out of it, as
Sure.
an example, so you can train
Yeah,
soldiers.
sure. Yeah.
Um, and there's plenty of different like goods that you can craft that have different effects, right? So it's not just like, oh, I gathered leather or cotton and now I have like a luxury resource and I just get a bonus for that. It's like,
Yeah.
no, I I collect cotton and now I have to make like shirts or like clothes out of it, right?
Yeah, it's an extra
Or
step. It's like an extra in-depth step.
yeah. Um, So, from what I'm hearing, the game sounds like it has a lot of potential. We also got a fall 2024 release on this one, that was disappointing to me. As we talked about last week, I thought it would be in the, well, I said first half of the year, and then I sort of pivoted and said Q2 or Q3,
Yep.
which is not going to be the case. Seems like it's going to be a Q4 when you see it, when you say fall. So,
Yeah. Fall
um,
being October, November.
which is, I'll just say, they they missed really hard on this one with announcing this 2 years, or not quite 2 years, a year and a half ago now at E3 2022. Xbox announced this game. That was a big miss in my opinion, like, because it was nowhere close at that point.
At that point,
Like,
it's nowhere close, right?
where it's going to
You're
be like 2.5 years since the announcement of the game that the game is out. Like, they announced it too early. They announced it way too early. Like,
possible. I don't know. Possible they internally delayed it post that announcement. They
I
just
mean,
internally push it
they
off.
did have some like technical alphas where they invited like some people to try out the game. I think at the end of 2022 or beginning of 2023.
Yep.
So they did have some play tests, but like,
Never know.
I don't know. I mean, again, when they announced it, they probably thought it wouldn't take this much longer. But
Exactly. It's
so
possible they just internally said, let's give it some more time compared to what we believed. So
yeah. So everything I've like read and like looked at on this game, I think it looks like really interesting. I really want to try this game. I'm really interested in it.
mm,
I'm hoping they'll have like a beta. I mean, they have their insider program where you can sign up, which I've had for a long time, and you can get selected to like test the game out, but I have yet to be selected to test the game out. So
gotcha.
we'll see. But I hope they do at least like a beta or like an early access or something where you can try the game out a little bit beforehand. But otherwise, we'll just have to wait till the fall to play it. But
Yep,
this
for sure.
game, this game, I'm pretty excited for. I think it has the potential to be like really incredible, but we'll see. Um,
The only other thing they showed was Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones and the, what was it, Great Circle?
Great Circle.
Not the best name, I will say. Like the Great
Yeah.
Circle, not the most interesting, but okay. So we have Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. We're spoiling this 2024 release, making it as just vague as possible. 2024.
I mean, there's no way it's not fall. It's not fall as well, right?
Yeah, I feel like it's fall. I don't see this coming
Or-
out until fall.
I mean, maybe they're saying 2024. I can see this one getting pushed to like early 2025 as well. We'll
Right.
see.
So let me just jump right into kind of gameplay for a second. They showed off some of the environments. There was a section where they actually did combat, so I want to show the combat. Here we go. So here's some combat sections, but we can see kind of the like full preview here. So I mean, like, looks great.
Yep.
Looks great. Very interesting. I mean, it's Indiana Jones, so you get the exact vibes you want. I mean, if you play Tomb Raider, you're going to get the same things because, you know, Tomb Raider, all those, little bit of inspiration from the Indiana Jones character. He's, you know, going off on adventures, trying to find artifacts, and there's always some villain potentially trying to like unleash an artifact and the horrors with it. So Indiana Jones is doing some hunting in tombs, in cool places on adventures. And in this case, they're showing off, okay, you have to solve a puzzle in a tomb. You're bringing gears there. That'll help you solve the puzzle, which opens the door. Everything I would have expected from Indiana Jones. So nothing so far I saw in this gameplay really, I would say, surprised me in a way that I was like, oh, that's unexpected. Everything I'm seeing here is very much what I would assume from Indiana Jones. You got your whip. You can throw out your whip, lash somebody in to potentially finish them off.
You can pull out your gun.
You can pull out a gun. I mean, like it looks great. Like visually, it looks great. It looks like you are an explorer. You are going through tombs. You are trying to, you know, go through your adventure, and you got all these villainous folks in the way. I like how they're like fist fighting you. I don't know why. That guy had a gun and you just beat him, like you got him with the whip. I mean, this we'll see. I could definitely see myself being interested in this one. I liked the Tomb Raider games, the most recent ones that came out.
Yep.
I like those. You know, it just looks, it does look cool. I have positive feelings watching this.
Puzzles are back, boys.
Puzzles are back. We have puzzles. We have adventures. We have like dungeons to go through, ancient tombs, and and artifacts, and Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Again, I'm not. I don't like the name as
I don't like the
much.
title. It's not very exciting.
It's not super exciting. Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark is super interesting. Like Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom. Temple of Doom. Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Oh, whoa, wait a minute. What do you mean Lost Ark? What's that? Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. You're like, okay, circle. I hope. Makes me think maybe there might have been a different name they could have used. After this, they had, developers obviously talked about the game. Spoon, what's your read on Indiana Jones and the Great generic name?
Yeah, it looks. I mean, I kind of agree with everything you said. To be honest, it looks pretty cool. I'm not sure I'm in love with the first person view. I think I would have liked a third person action game here as opposed to a first person one. But
okay.
They did say that it's not going to be first person all the time. Obviously, cutscenes is going to be
right.
Dynamic camera, painting and stuff like that. And they also said traversal when you're climbing and stuff like that, it will go into third person as well. So
as it should, yeah.
Which that makes sense. But I think my read is I would have just preferred it to be a third person action game as opposed to first person. But that's me. Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest Indiana Jones fan, but I've seen it's been a long time at this point, but I have seen the older movies, and I saw the fourth one, which was dog shit. I haven't watched the most recent one.
Yeah, I had no interest in the most recent one.
I was wondering in this if they were actually going to get Harrison Ford to voice Indiana Jones, which they did not. It's Troy Baker, apparently, who's a very good voice actor, to be fair, and I'm sure he'll do a great job. But they did not, unfortunately, get Harrison Ford to voice Indiana Jones for this one.
Man, I feel like Harrison Ford was just like, hell no, video games. What are those?
Yeah, probably.
Just seems like a really grouchy
or maybe
dude.
He's just like, I'm too old for this shit. I don't want to do this.
I think he just strikes me as a super grouchy, I'm not doing it, dude.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't fucking want to do that.
Well, I mean, the the story about him with Star Wars is that like he didn't want to do the newer Star Wars trilogy, so they just had him get killed off in the first movie.
Oh, I'm sure he was just like, I don't want to do that. Is there any way I can get out of it? And like, yeah, we can just kill you, I guess. And like, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
He's like, yeah, come back, do a few lines in the first movie, like a few scenes, and we'll just kill
Well,
you
I
off
just
in the
like,
first movie.
I
Like,
just don't think he liked that role either. I don't know if he was like super
yeah,
into that role.
maybe not.
It probably like, I don't know. Harrison Ford just strikes me as like a super grouchy dude now. He's like, I'm not gonna voice that. That seems boring.
Yeah.
It's like Harrison. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
He did do the most recent Indiana Jones movie, but
They probably had to pay him a shit ton of money too.
Yeah.
They probably had to pay him so much, and I'm sure at first he was like, I'm not doing another Indiana Jones. We'll give you a truckload, insane amounts of money. He's like, oh, fine.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do anything.
They did do a really good job, by the way. I mean, this game looks really good, but like Indiana Jones looks like Indiana Jones in this game. It looks like a young Harrison Ford in
It
Indiana
does. He
Jones.
does
Like,
look good.
yeah.
It looks good. I got some good vibes from this game watching it, or at least this preview. So I felt very positively about it. Very cool. I'm interested.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested as well. Again, it's another game that I'll probably check out at least on Game Pass. When it comes out. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I like first person action game. Fine. I like puzzles, and hopefully this game will have some good. I like this. I agree with you. I liked the newer Tomb Raider. I didn't really like the third one. I played the third one, and I didn't really like the third one very much.
Not that
but
one.
The first two were really good.
Yeah.
In the new Tomb Raider series, exploration, puzzles, some combat. So yeah. I mean, it looks good. It looks good. I was surprised to see. Apparently, this was like Todd's idea, like Todd Howard, and he was like, "Yeah, I want to make an Indiana Jones.
I want
game."
an Indiana Jones game.
Yeah. So.
I mean, Indiana Jones is a very cool character. It's popular, and Todd's not a young person. It's
young dude.
Super high probability he was like an Indiana Jones fan growing up, which I'm sure I think he said that. He's like, "Oh, I'm a big fan of Indiana Jones, love it." Like, my dream would be to make a game.
How old do you think Todd is?
He's
like
probably
upper 40s or maybe low 50s.
I would say
like
maybe low 50s, high 40s. He strikes me as a low 50s, high 40s.
He's like born in like the early 70s.
That's like
probably.
That's Indiana. Indiana Jones. He probably was like kind of a fan as a kid. I mean, it's like he's got passion for it. He gave it to a team he feels like will have some passion for it. This is his passion project. So I'm very hopeful on it.
Passion project for Todd.
Passion project for Todd. I feel like that's a positive thing. It just means like he is going to dedicate what he can to make it work. That strikes me as positive.
Yeah, and it looks good. So I think and the sort of, at least the reactions that I saw online on Twitter were that this was an excellent presentation from Microsoft in general. I mean, the whole direct, like, people generally really liked what they saw from this Xbox presentation.
I agree. So, I do agree.
I also agree.
They hit all the right notes, and they hit multiple audiences, and they showcased all the games that are coming out this year that they feel like are their big hitters. And
yeah,
I mean, like, none of these games struck me as like, oh, that's really underwhelming. So that's always a good sign too. And
hopefully we don't get a Redfall, aka Blue Balled, or a Starfield this year from any of these games.
Yeah, man, Redfall, what a disaster! Every time we circle back to Redfall, and Phil's constantly telling people, "Red what? I don't think we released a game called that. Maybe you're thinking of Starfield." I'm like, no, Redfall. Remember?
And I mean, Starfield sold well, but like, man, once the honeymoon period wore off, people were like, "Yeah, I don't know, this game's not that good." Like,
They're like,
I'm sure there are
it's,
some. I'm sure there are some people that love it, and
I'm
that's
sure
perfectly fine. But like, the general consensus is that like that game wasn't that good.
it's.
Like,
I don't. I don't know what people were expecting. Like you played Skyrim, you played Fallout. Starfield is just going to be that.
you've seen Bethesda make the same game over and over again
It's
for the
just going to
past
be
10
that.
years. Like,
I don't know what people were expecting. Like I'm just like, guys, like you played
it's gonna
Skyrim and Fallout.
It's gonna be Fallout, and it's gonna be Fallout in
it's
space.
it's just going to be Fallout in space. Like I don't know what you expected. Like if you enjoy
But
Fallout,
but it
like,
was
that's
even worse
fine.
because the exploration was like dog shit because you couldn't like
You couldn't feasibly fly between planets. Yeah.
it was loading screen simulator. Like,
Yeah, which is I don't know. I can see where the miss is like the exploration part. I will say, like, admittedly, I think Skyrim and Fallout do have great exploration. There's a lot of things to explore, which adds a lot of value to playing the game. It's like, oh, I found something new this time. Flying between planets, like that's like exploration. Like that's the feeling of flying through space. If you're inclined to just fast travel instead, that takes away from a big element of why you're doing a space
it's
open
not
world,
even
like
inclined.
open galaxy, open.
You
solar
are not
system.
allowed to fly from planet to planet.
Oh, you're not.
You have to fast travel.
Okay, well that takes away a lot of value. So that's like part of the reason why you want to play some of these games.
You can fly in space, like in the atmospheres, like around each planet, but like you cannot fly from planet to planet. You have to fast travel. Like,
oh, interesting. What a miss. Okay. Well, anyway, I haven't played Starfield. Every time I hear about it, I'm like, okay, not playing it. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, I'm okay not playing this.
My intention was to try it, and then like I actually did download it at one point on Game Pass and was gonna try it, and then like I was just like, I'm good. I don't need.
Like, yeah, I'm good.
I don't need to try that. It's fine.
I'm good. Yeah, that's kind of where you're at. He's like, I'm okay not playing it.
And then I uninstalled it.
Yeah.
Without ever playing it.
That's that game to me. It's like, I'm okay not playing it for now. Like maybe I'll try it sometime, but I'm okay. So anyway, any other thoughts on the developer direct? By the way.
Nope.
Yeah.
Good job, Microsoft.
Yeah, you did a good job.
Big dub.